Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming out for today's council meeting. Let the record show that Councilmember Boyd is on Zoom and Mayor Pro Tem Cobb Mayor Pro Tem Cobb is not present. We will have the invocation by Mr. Don Smith, and we will have the pledge, of allegiance by Councilmember Solomon.
Lord, thank you for allowing us to bring in the new year. We need to confess our sins and ask your forgiveness for them. Let's start the new year with a true desire to treat each other the same way Jesus treats us. Let's try attacking the problems rather than the people that are involved with the problems. If we work together under God, we can solve all problems. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you, Councilmember Solomon. Let the record show that all council members are present. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Please click. Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move the agenda be approved as printed.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Councilmember Boyd, your vote?
My vote is a yes.
Thank you, sir. Have everybody clicked? Yes or no?
Mayor Pro Tem Cobb,
Motion carries 7-0. We will now have our citizen comments. 4 minutes for each individual that will be speaking today. In council, you have 1 minute time allotted. And you must, both citizens and also council, be on the agenda item. The first person, Mr. Price. Mr. Price, you have 4 minutes. Good afternoon.
All right. Good evening. So I had quite a few questions. RS 24004. I'm still at a loss at everybody buying these uniforms and then we're cleaning them. I'm just wondering why we're cleaning volunteered, I don't know, or requested sports activity uniforms, why we're cleaning them for elected uniforms that people bought themselves. So I don't know why we're cleaning them. So somebody can explain why you're doing a team or you're taking part of a baseball team, football team, or anything like that, and you bought the item and then you wear it and then we're cleaning it apparently. So I'm just at a loss. RS 24006. What is the cost per person? And how many people are we covering for this cost? For these physicals? Right? That seems to be an extremely high cost for normal physicals, right? So we're looking at over 100,000 people, maybe, I don't know. RS 24009, what was last year's actual cost? Right? So what did we actually pay versus what we allotted to pay? Right? So $350,000 paint on a road seems, for 1 year coverage, is a little excessive to me. So I'm like, okay, where is it going to? Or what was last year's compared to this year, right? So what's the cost increase initiative there? RS 24012. This says increment reimbursement. So did we buy something, or did we give money to somebody and we're being reimbursed, or are we reimbursing a business for putting infrastructure in that we actually need as a city? Or is it just that we're buying an infrastructure for a business that we wouldn't normally have anyway? So justification to cost, right? So that, because I'm just at a loss of why the word reimbursement, what is that? How is that applied? Who's getting what money and for what? Because it's confusing to me, the way it's worded and the way the contract reads. It reads that we just bought a whole bunch of stuff that we're not going to use, only that chemical company is going to use. And that's pretty much the same that I would say all the way down, as well as it on RS 24002, right? Is DEI going to be utilized for that program? And if it is, how is that program in DEI utilized? So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Price. The next resident is, I'm sorry, Councilman Adams.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I can go ahead, just because it was asked at the workshop about the uniforms. It was stated to us that that the uniforms are given for the participants and they clean them, not the city.
Right, it's the
We don't have the staff to do that. And this is just a purchase for new uniforms for future participants.
Yes, sir. And while you're at it, you want to answer all the rest of them?
I'm going to have the experts to come up and clarify on the reimbursement, because I want to make sure he has the full answer, and I don't want to butcher it.
For the second question, Mr. Price, the city goes out and do the stripes every year because, as you know, they fade, so we have to go back. As far as item number,
I was just wondering what the actual cost was for last year.
well, I don't have that information, but if you send me an email, I will get staff to give me the answer. You also had number 10. I answered that one. Number, or is this at 7?
13.
13,
Well, yeah, 7 too, but yeah.
was it 7?
Yeah.
For one other thing, okay, Mr. Price, I'm gonna answer your question, but we can't go back in conversation. Okay, thank you. For the fire department, for the health benefits, that's something that we push heavily because it's cancer screening for our firefighters. As you know, when they wear their uniforms and the job that they have, they are at a higher risk of having cancer. And so for the medical evaluation, it's very important as a prevention measure. You had also, I don't even know, number 12. Number 13 is MGC Pure Chemicals. That was part of the tax increment reimbursement agreement once they came into our area. That was an agreement that we had made when we brought them to our area through our Killeen, our EDC economic development. So that's just a reimbursement. And which one is the 14? And the chemical company for the Economic Development Incentive Agreement, and that was discussed at our TERS meeting, and it's for $1,262,723, and that's for the expansion. And if you have any questions that I may not answer for you, if you would send me an email, I will get those answers for you. You're welcome, sir. Cameron Cochran? Good afternoon, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Can I ask you a question, Mayor? You said several times that the dais is afraid to go to their cars at night.
RS, that, sir, you
Can
are
I ask
off
where
the
the-
agenda. Sir,
asking a
please
question.
get
Can I
back
ask
to
a
RS-24-006, and that is medical evaluation.
So I can't ask a question, clarification before I start. Is there a clipboard to sign up? Is there a rallying point? for
Sir,
this?
you are disturbing and interrupting the meeting. Would you please, Councilman
All right, I'm going
Zagarro?
to start here. Thank you. Resolution, pay for annual medical evaluations for frontline fire responders at $255,000. I listened to the presentation for this resolution at the last meeting on January 9th. My concern is that only the city manager and the city council reflected the health concerns of the frontline firefighters. Where's the same in health, well-being concern for the Killeen Police Department and the City Public Works Department employees? As I mentioned in previous citizen comments, it seems that the city does not care about the reimbursement of preventative care for those who may get tetanus or hepatitis in the Waste Management Department. These workers, on a daily basis, interact with disease-ridden trash and use equipment that breaks down the solid waste. Why not the same courtesy? For those unaware, the city is currently waiting for 3 new fire trucks. At least 3 years in counting, these fire trucks have not garbage trucks, have not shown up at $180,000. The city had to pay in 2022 extra money for these trucks that still haven't showed up in 3 years. I also like to say that the city is having trouble ordering the spare parts to fix the garbage trucks and the operation troubles with the hydraulics, technical trash, compacting equipment. City employees at the Public Works are putting themselves in danger, but yet again, we're only worried about medical examinations for one department, not all departments. Each day, the staff are confronted with frightening and deadly diseases, but it seems no one cares, especially the dais made up of 2 nurses. 2 nurses, the city council, the city manager, and the executive director of Public Works. I guess they would just want to look the other way. All I'm requesting is fair and equitable treatment by the city to all departments, not just one. Again, I want to reinforce, my question is not money allocated to the Killeen Fire Department, but allocated to all departments. All money should be treated fairly among them. Let's move on. There's a thing called the governing standards and expectations. I brought that up before. In this booklet, it says that the city can take, as a mayor and city council members, 2 trips per year.
Mr. Cochran, please stick to your
Please stop my time. Please stop my time if you're asking me questions.
medical evaluation.
Please stop my time if you're asking me questions so I can respond to your questions.
You're off the agenda. Please get back on.
Well, I'll take my time away, thank you. I'm looking for extra money that should be spending on other departments besides what currently is in this resolution for tonight. Seems that your trips cost about $75,000 worth of expenses to the citizens.
Please get back.
All right, so I'm looking at the fire department.
Mr. Cochran, please get back to on the agenda item.
I'm trying to, but you're taking my time away to ask me questions. That's a ploy. My time should stop, correct? You're asking questions, I need to respond. Correct? Okay, the mayor spent $175,075 on
your
a trip to
time
Seattle,
is up.
Washington.
Mr. Cochran, your time is up. You're disrupting the meeting, sir. Mr. Cochran, you're disrupting the meeting.
Disrupting the meeting by asking questions.
Please get back to the agenda item.
The agenda item is money spent for medical problems that people may face, and I'm asking, well, how about the Public Works Department? How about the Killeen Police Department? Where's their money? Where's the fair share? I found places where money is being spent. That money can be spent in other places. $75,000 on trips to
Sir,
Seattle,
your time is up.
Washington, to Pennsylvania.
The next person to speak, Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Mr. Cagle, can you, just as a point of clarity, I believe when we had several meetings, when we were talking about healthcare coverage for our entire employees, at that point, we were talking about increasing the options based on the feedback that we'd received from our employees about the coverage. My understanding is that Ms. Bark at one of those meetings may have stated that certain provisions and coverage is already included in the healthcare packages. Certain tests are included already in our employees' packages and promotions. However, our fire did not have that option. Can you add some clarity there, please?
Right, well, all employees have the same options in our health care, but what this was elevated care because firefighters are subject to much greater risk for cancer, job-related cancer that is now in law, that we know it's presumptive. If they have that specific form of cancer, it's presumed to be job-related, and this is to try to catch it ahead of time before it gets too serious. It's a proactive measure. We don't have other similar cancer issues with other professions. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and constituents. You know, RS 24006, I am a retired public health nurse, and I know about
Madam-
hepatitis and
Mayor Pro
Tdap.
Tem.
And so yes, ma'am, to the health care. With the health care, each person that works for our city is taken care of through their health care. What I love so much about our human resources, and when you're hired, they focus on our staff. That's one of the biggest things for us, is to be focused and to ensure that every staff member is taken care of when we know.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, we have to stick to the agenda item. Councilmember Boyd, Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to see if we could have Fire Chief come back up and kind of reiterate the importance of this program, and maybe a question for Mr. Cagle. I believe there is a program in place
Chief
for our Public
Kibitz.
Works Department, isn't there, for hepatitis immunizations or shots or tests, whatever that they need? I thought that was another item that we had.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just to build on what City Manager Cagle already shared, firefighters are at a 10% higher risk of contracting cancer from job-related risks. Additionally, heart and lung disease, firefighters are at another 10 to 20% higher risk of contracting heart and lung disease from the risks that we face. So these physicals encompass not just cancer screenings, but heart and lung screenings. They assess heart and lung capacity of the firefighter throughout the years. And they get this every year. They're given the results every year. And those results are kept private also, by the way. The only thing that the physician will give to us is a fit for duty recommendation. So if they say Jim Kabinski's heart is at 50% of his capacity, and if you send Jim Kabinski into a fire, he will most likely die. You need to let him go see his doctor to get better, to get rehabbed, so that he can or she can come back to work. That is the goal, is to keep firefighters on the job for their entire career, and to make sure that they have a good retirement and live a long life with their families. So it is fully encompassing not just cancer screenings, but heart and lung as well, which are the three areas that firefighters suffer the most from, and a higher percentage than the average citizen.
Thank you, Chief Kabinski. Councilmember Boyd. Ms. Cagle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening to the council. Quick question for the city manager or the fire chief. What is the update on the suggested delays on those fire department pieces of equipment?
Well, I'm not going to say there are delays. That's a straw man, but I'll let the chief answer.
Mr. Cagle, Chief, that's not on the agenda. We cannot discuss it.
That is correct.
I
That's my
apologize
apology.
for that. It's not on the agenda. Anyone else before we move forward? Thank you. Michael Fornino. Good afternoon, sir. You have 4 minutes.
think this is the first time that I'll agree on the mayor with anything, and that's only on arithmetic. $1,862,723, or $1,862,723 in total going to MGC Pure Chemicals. If I'm a consumer of any of their products, it would be a mystery to me and probably to anybody in this room. If they were such the economic powerhouse as advertised, I mean, they employ barely 24 people. Why are we reimbursing and giving our tax money to this company that really does not contribute that much as far as workforce? Or, again, if somebody could say that I purchased their products or we even use their products, I'd be welcome to listen. This is not fiscally responsible. This is not even smart. I mean, if we have $1.8 million to spend to just give this back to these people at this company, $1.8 million, as Dr. Cochran has stated, there's 101 things in this city that we could be spending that on. $1.8 million. We could finally pave Gilmer Street. We could fund the homeless shelter as it exists, warming centers. There's things that the people of this city need. We expect financial responsibility, some fiscal wisdom when it comes to this sort of thing. Yet, every time I turn around, anybody in this town that seems to own a business and has a good sales pitch, if they're doing such good business, why are we giving them our money? Why are we not stockholders? If we're giving our money, investing in these corporations, we should be getting something back. MGC Chemicals, the only time I've ever seen these folks is on the agenda items for anything. I can't recall any of their labels or manufactured by this or that at H-E-B, Walmart, or McCann Pledge to window cleaner. I don't know what these people do. All I do know is that they absorb our money and they take it. But why do I have to, they'll be like, you folks, I want to expand my house just simply for the sake of it. I mean, am I entitled to that sort of money to do it? You don't get anything from me other than my regular taxes. What have they done that is so wonderful for this town that $1.8 million of our money, not just mine, not just yours, our money? This is ridiculous. I mean, it is, you're going to take this as an insult, but based on this, it is hard for me to fathom that there are this many people sitting in front of me that have real estate licenses. You wouldn't buy and sell houses this way. You're playing monopoly with real buildings and our money. More use that would make sense and would be a benefit to this city and the people as a whole. $1.8 million. That's more money than most of us, if we were to pool all of our money, put it in a pile right over there, we'll see in our lifetime. Yet, these folks just ask for it. You're happy to write a check for it. This has got to stop. Plain and simple. All the time. I mean, it's pointless to email you, it's pointless to call you and ask you questions about this. So here I am at the lectern to where I'm addressing this. Because whenever anybody brings up a point like this, you instantly start to throw it back that we're attacking you, we're insulting you, et cetera, et cetera. This is dollars and cents, period. It's pure arithmetic. It's nonsense. Do not approve this.
Thank you. Mr. Leo Gukheisen. Good afternoon, sir. You have 4 minutes. Oh, I apologize, sir. I do apologize. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Mr. Cagle, during several of our meetings, we've had conversations about various economic drivers and how there's multiple ways for a city to earn money and have economic impacts. I think they even touched on this particular business and some of the benefits that it was adding to our overall bottom line. Is there any feedback or any update that you can provide our citizen about the overall economic impact of this particular expansion?
Sure. This is the largest single economic investment in the history of the city of Killeen. It's a total of $130 million of investment and $90 million in real property. And what this is is there's $41 million in personal property that we're doing a tax rebate. After they pay their taxes, we rebate half of the personal property taxes. And that's as an incentive to get them to expand here. So the math is very clear. It's a huge win for the city because you don't have that money to spend if they don't pay their taxes. If they're not here and they don't expand, you don't have that money to spend on whatever else you wanted to spend on. As opposed to someone enlarging their house, well, they're not going to enlarge their house somewhere else. There would be no reason to offer an incentive to someone to expand their house. So there are many things that you evaluate on an economic development prospect. Sometimes it's jobs, sometimes it's pure tax revenue, and sometimes it's a combination of both.
Thank you.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez and City Manager. I think you touched on my question, but I did want to reiterate that this is a reimbursement agreement. And I know there was some questions earlier about the word reimbursement. So what this is a private business comes into town. They invest their own money, which raises the property tax value of their property and their personal property on that land. Therein, they're providing more revenue for the city to collect on property taxes because it used to be a raw piece of land paying X amount of dollars every year. Now it's an improved piece of land paying a lot more money. So out of that increase that we're now collecting, because they've invested that money, we're simply paying them some of that money back out of their own money that they've created by improving that property. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a reimbursement. We're not giving them a check for any
Your time
amount.
is up, Mr. Alvarez. Councilmember Segar.
Thank you, Mayor, and I don't mean to harsh this point, but I think that a lot of times, what was said up here, a lot of times, even though it's not correct, a lot of times you get people that believe that. They believe that this is the case, and I think that is very important that we as council members keep doing what we're doing, and thank you, City Manager, for explaining that, because it's nothing that it comes out of the taxpayer money or anything like that. It's money that comes from them that we would never have, and I think that we need to just keep reemphasizing that point so people don't think that this is tax money, because this money would not be here. $1 million is nothing compared to what we're bringing in, and we're giving part of what already came in. Because if it wasn't for them coming in, we wouldn't have $1 million to give to them. And so I just want to reemphasize that point again one more time so people really have a good understanding of what we're really doing here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Gukaisen, sir, I apologize for that. Good afternoon. You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm here to discuss, which I was here last week, regarding RS 24-013. I did have some questions, and one of them was answered by the body, which was self-explanatory, and I understand that one. But the other ones were kind of unknown. So I looked at the agreement that was attached to the agenda here, and I have a question. From my understanding, well, first of all, it says, within 90 days of the following of the effective date, the council or the city agrees to sell the property for $300,000. Then in paragraph 3 of, section 3A, number 2, it says, payment of the consideration shall not be due unless during the term of this agreement, the company shall ever cease operations and so forth. So my question is this kind of like a, pardon the expression, like a Ponzi scheme, as we say, that they're promising $300,000, but they're really not paying the $300,000? Because it goes on in the same section that says after 5 years, the lien will be released to them with no payments due by the company. So as a layman, I take that as we're just saying they're paying us $300,000, but in reality, they're not paying $300,000. The second item in the briefing last week, it said that the city of Killeen, not the KEDC, is going to give this company $150,000 with them repaying $30,000 a year for 5 years. But that's not what it says in paragraph B under this section. It says that the city will reimburse them. So the city agrees to reimburse company up to the maximum reimbursement amount for actual improvement costs over a 5-year period. Upon completion of construction, company shall provide paid invoice to the city. City will then issue 5 reimbursement payments in the amount of $30,000. The briefing says we're going to give them the money and they're going to pay us back. That was a part of the briefing from last week. But this doesn't match what was said. This is like they're going to give us a bill for $30,000. When I say us, I'm referring to the city, and we're going to pay them back. So if you take everything in consideration, this company is basically getting $200,000 from KEDC, $300,000 taken care of, or however you wanted to explain it, for the building, and then we're giving another $150,000. That's almost $500,000. But what's in this agreement does not match what was in the briefing from last week. Because it says they will pay the city back that $150,000. This does not say that. This says we, the city, will pay them that $150,000. Now, I do understand that, to get businesses in here, we have to do a little give and take. I got that. I'm not against that. But what I'm against is the information needs to be fair and straight across the board. If we're doing this to get them here, just tell us. Because like I said, this agreement does not match the briefing that was given last week. It's probably the same one this week too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gukais. And Mr. Cagle, can you clarify the
Well, I can't clarify the misunderstanding, but I can tell you it was in plain English in the presentation. You've all got it in your packets. It says $150,000 economic incentive or grant from the city of Killeen towards renovation costs. And it says sell the property by a $300,000 warranty deed secured by vendor's lien. Lien would be forgiven upon operating for 5 years.
5 years?
It was very straightforward. This is the exact presentation that was made last week.
Yes, sir, but there's nothing wrong with just repeating it for clarity if there was some kind of misunderstanding from last week. And I thank you for that. Councilmember Everest.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at the presentation that was given last week, I think, and Mr. Gukeisen walked out, but I think the confusion was that they have requested $200,000 to upgrade the building for use from the Killeen Economic Development Corporation. And then the section that is titled The City of Killeen includes the other 2 items, which is the building with a warranty deed for 5 years. That means they have to perform for 5 years. They have to hold a brewery that's open during normal business hours and do what they say they're going to do for 5 years. If they do that, then they get the building after 5 years. And then they've also asked for $150,000. That is the reimbursement portion that is payable over the first 5 years at $30,000 a year, which 30,000 times 5 years is the $150,000. So they would submit their costs back to us and be reimbursed a maximum of $30,000 a year.
Thank you. And I think the key to that is 5 years. Yes, sir. Thank you for that also, that clarity, Councilmember Everest. That is all of our citizen comments. Madam Secretary, consent agenda items.
MN 24001, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of December 12, 2023. MN 24002, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of December 19, 2023. RS 24003, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the purchase of Cohesity Backup Expansion and License True-Up from NetSync Network Solutions in an amount not to exceed $68,699.04. RS 24004, consider a memorandum resolution awarding RFP 2408 Athletic Uniforms and Clothing Services Agreement to CNC Sporting Goods in an amount not to exceed $60,000 for FY 2024. RS 24005, consider a memorandum resolution accepting the Wildland Fire Vehicle allocation from TIFMAS. RS 24006, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the execution of the professional services agreement with Frontline Mobile Health PLLC for annual medical evaluations in the amount of $255,000. RS 24007, consider a memorandum resolution approving the purchase of fitness equipment from Marathon Fitness for the Killeen Fire and Police Departments in an amount not to exceed $735 for FY 2024. RS 24008, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the execution of Amendment Number 1 to the professional services agreement with Pape Dawson Engineers in the amount of $150,000 for development services support. RS 24009, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the award of bid number 2418 pavement marking services to DIJ Construction, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $350,000 for FY '24. RS 24010, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing maintenance and repairs of HVAC equipment through the Brandt Companies in amount not to exceed $150,000 for FY 2024. RS 24011, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the execution of change order number 2 with Choice Builders LLC for the Condor and AA Lane Park drainage improvements, reducing the overall contract amount by $71,462.78. RS 24012, consider a memorandum resolution approving a Chapter 311 tax increment reimbursement agreement with MGC Pure Chemicals America, Inc. for the reimbursement of certain infrastructure costs associated with the expansion of its operations in an amount not to exceed $600,000. RS 24013, consider a memorandum resolution approving a Chapter 380 economic development agreement with Southern Roots Brewing Company for the reimbursement of renovation costs in an amount not to exceed $150,000 and authorizing the sale of the city-owned property located at 324 North Gray Street. RS 24014, consider a memorandum resolution approving a Chapter 380 Economic Development Incentive Agreement with MGC Pure Chemicals America, Inc. for the reimbursement of certain costs associated with the expansion of its operations in an amount not to exceed $1,262,723.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilmember Sagar.
I second that.
Thank you. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. That's a yes, Councilmember Boyd.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Motion carries 7-0. Whenever you're ready, Madam Secretary, resolutions.
RS 24002, consider a memorandum resolution for a memorandum of agreement for the City of Killeen with the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command to participate in the United States Army Partnership for Your Success program.
Thank you, Council. Mrs. Barker went through the slides last week. Would you like her to go back through them? Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Hold on.
Oh, you have something to
I'm
add?
sorry,
Okay.
Mayor. I have the lady from the program on Zoom, and she wanted to introduce herself to y'all, since we didn't get to do that last week. So this is Mrs. Ross. Okay, Ms. Ross, you're good.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. First of all, say thank you for allowing me to be on this here call and meeting with you guys. And I do look forward to us having an opportunity to partner with you guys. I just basically did a partnership last Thursday with the town of Prescott Valley in Arizona. It was a great ceremony and a great partnership. We currently have over 1,287 partners. And definitely would like to partner with the city of Killeen. That would give you guys the opportunity to bring veterans back into your community as well as revenue back into the community.
Yes, ma'am, thank you, and we look forward, the city of Killeen, the council and city staff, and also for Cavazos. We all look forward to working with you. Thank you for this opportunity.
And you are definitely welcome, and just know there's no cost.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I like when I brought it to Mrs. Bart, free. All right, thank you. Anything else, Mrs. Bart?
No, ma'am, that was it. I just wanted y'all to see her, and if you have any questions to ask her, but we will be back on the 30th of January for a signing ceremony.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for all you do for the city.
Yes, thank you.
Council members, we need a motion. Mayor Pro Tem, Council Member Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve RS 24-002.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Councilmember Boyd?
Yes.
Motion.
I stated yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. Public hearing. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
PH 24001, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by Able Engineering PLLC on behalf of NMP Killeen Limited Partnership, case number Z2327, to amend the planned unit development standards for the Rosewood Commercial Planned Unit Development, ordinance number 18038, to add 3 additional apartment buildings and 72 dwelling units. The subject property is locally addressed as 3701 Rosewood Drive, Killeen, Texas. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Killeen by changing the zoning of certain property out of the City of Killeen, Bell County, Texas, amending the planned unit development with R-3A multifamily apartment residential district uses, providing a savings clause, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date."
Thank you, council. This vote requires a 3/4 majority vote. Also, Mr. Revelle presented this to the council last week. Would you like him to go back through the presentation? All right. Okay. You want him to go back through it? Okay, Mr. Revelle. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
They would like for you to go through the whole
Absolutely.
presentation.
Where is the? Thank you. Even to the mayor and the council, city manager, assistant city manager, council pro tem. As you recall, this is a request actually to add 3 additional apartment buildings for a total of 72 dwelling units for an existing planned unit development that's located at 3701 Rosewood Drive. The star on the map shows the approximate location. This shows the aerial. The addition of the structures would be here, and we'll have a later map that will show that. We've already covered this. And again, they currently have 9 buildings on the site, 216 dwelling units. This would add 72 units, as well as 3 buildings, bringing the total to 288 dwelling units on the site. This map shows the additional buildings that would be added. That's that one, and that one. It also shows the screening that will be along here with fencing and trees. And it also shows the drainage easement, 100-foot drainage easement that will be maintained as well. It's also worth noting that there is an existing dog park and playground area on the site. There's a blow-up of what would be added. Just basically saying this project is subject to plan unit development requirements because it's in excess of 5 acres. And then also, this was a question last week. The plan does require that there be parkland dedication requirements to be met. And so 18,000 will go toward park development fees. And then in lieu of actually dedicating parkland, because if they dedicate the parkland, it would be less than an acre, they're gonna pay the fees of 46,800. Oftentimes in the ordinance, as a matter of practice, when it's less than an acre, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to create a public park. There's a lot of expense and associated with that doesn't make sense. We would have those all over the place. And so there's a fee in lieu of requirement that allows us to address that. So the total park fees they would pay is just under 65,000. Subject property, playground, dog park. And then it met all of the comprehensive plan requirements. I won't go through that again. I think you all have that and have a solid understanding. It is in a floodplain, and as a result, there will have to be a flood study to document to FEMA that they can meet the FEMA requirements. And then in addition to that, they will have to meet the city requirements for drainage protection as well. And these maps really just this shows the floodplain extent here, this shaded area. And as you can see, most of these over here will be within this area. All the notifications have been accomplished. We did get some written responses, 3 in opposition to the request. Most of those residents were located along Alcorn Creek. That did respond. And then the council has the alternatives mentioned here. And then staff has the recommendation to approve with the condition to add up to 3 apartment buildings, up to 72 additional dwelling units, and then also provide the landscaping buffer along the west and southwest property line with the trees at the distances noted. The Planning Commission heard this case on December 4th and voted to disapprove, and that has already been remarked. This would require at least 6 votes for the City Council to deal with that recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Also, I'd like to say that the applicant, as well as the owner of the site in operation, is here tonight to answer any questions that you may have as well.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle. Councilmember Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Revelle, on this location, I want to put emphasis, I want you to explain about the flooding issue, because there are some residents, I've got calls from there, and they was concerned about, they did not want this because of the concerns of flooding.
Yes, sir. So typically, even if the property was not located in the floodplain, the city has drainage requirements that basically say you can't make flooding conditions worse. Your development cannot make flooding conditions worse for anybody off-site, upstream or adjacent to or downstream from your property. So they cannot make flooding conditions worse. In addition, they have to meet the FEMA requirements because they are developing in the floodplain. FEMA has a certain standard that they have to meet, and they have to do a detailed study. They have to check the flow information as well as the elevation information. They have to base it on updated information because a lot of the flood maps, our flood maps are based on 2008 dated information, but they have to base it on updated information, so today's date. And so again, that's another level of standard to address floodplain requirements and flooding.
Okay, so when you say they would have to show that, and this is for the residents that was concerned about the flooding, that it will not worsen, the flooding.
Yes, sir. They will have to demonstrate that as a part of our review requirements and as a part of our review process. They will have to demonstrate that. They will have to follow our drainage design manual requirements and demonstrate that they're meeting that end outcome of not worsening flooding conditions.
And to address the green space, now, I was there and I noticed that they did have a dog
Yes, sir.
park. There is an additional playground area that's currently there?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir, there is, and the owner, and as well as his representative here to speak to that as well.
Yes, we would like, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir, once Councilmember
Oh, I'm sorry.
Alvarez, and they'll come after Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Rivera. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Councilmember Alvarez?
Thank you, Mayor. And Mr. Ravel, this request initially included 4 buildings, am I
Yes.
correct? And when it was voted or recommended disapproval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, was that the request with 4 buildings?
Yes.
Or as we see it?
Yes,
The
4 buildings, yes.
Okay, so now this is the 3-building request, which was staff's recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
And Mr. Ravel, just as a reminder, this was going to trigger a traffic impact analysis. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
It will.
Councilmember Adams?
Mr. Ravel, thank you. Mr. Ravel, you mentioned that they will have to demonstrate the floodplain standard. When do they do that?
So at the point when they're ready to submit for a permit, then to the city for a permit to develop, like site development, that's when they'll have to meet the city's requirements.
Okay, so-
They'll have to start working on the FEMA requirements right away.
So, the fears that Councilmember Solomon had mentioned from some of the residents, those wouldn't be alleviated unless we approve this and they demonstrate. But then if they don't demonstrate it, then what?
If their design doesn't demonstrate it, then they have the option to go back and develop a design that will.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Boyd? Do you have any questions, sir?
No, my concern just remained the availability of sufficient park space for the individuals that will be accessing the PUD over the years. But no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Segarra, Mayor Pro Tem? All right. Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Yes, ma'am.
We will call up, Mr. Cagle, did you have anything? We will call up the applicants, Mr. Solomon, Jeff Hamilton, and Robert Peak. Would you please come up? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Jeff Hamilton. I'm the engineer for the applicant, Mr. Peak, he's back there. He asked if you have questions for him, he'd be happy to come up and speak. Otherwise, he's asking me to try to answer some of the technical questions. Yes, to answer your question, the initial request was for 4 buildings, and when we went through P&Z, we got some pretty good feedback from them as to the density that we were requesting. Obviously, they said that they denied the request, and feedback that I received from after the fact was just too many units, too many buildings. So we went back to the drawing board with city staff, worked with them, and came to the understanding that 3 buildings, 72 units seemed to be an appropriate number of units to put forth a request before the council to approve. So the site plan you have in front of you is the plan that we are requesting to develop, understanding that the plan we're putting in front of you is for a land use application. We're asking for a zoning case approval. And when I say that, I mean that we understand, I understand as the engineer, my client and the owner understands as the developer that if we were to garner favor this evening and get an approval, it is simply for land use. And it doesn't mean we get to use the land unless we are able to prove the flooding, prove traffic, prove any and all of the other city ordinance permits that are required. We go to work, we put those plans together, we demonstrate to city staff, we demonstrate to FEMA that the plan that we are trying to develop is in fact within the city ordinance requirements, that we are not in fact, impacting drainage patterns or flooding, or we're not increasing flooding and to the concern of the neighbors. Traffic, same thing. We're looking that through the traffic impact assessment and analysis, we'll demonstrate that if there is an impact, we'll work through how we mitigate that and then put together a set of plans for mitigating that and ultimately get a permit for that. I'll be concise, put a bow on it. If we can't get the permits, then we're not building. But if we can't get an approval for the land use to allow us to explore the permits and the engineering effort that it takes to get those permits, then we can't go to the engineering stage of it. So for this evening, and with great appreciation for allowing me to come and present, we're just asking for an approval of the layout that we have, which to your questions about the park space and green space, Phase 2 is roughly 6 acres of the 16-acre tract. If you break out the numbers, there's about 2 acres of pavement and buildings that we're proposing. The rest of it, there's about 4 acres of green space that will remain. That's in addition to the dog park that's already there, the playground that's already there. So we're trying to preserve as much green space as we can, maintain a good buffer between this development and the neighbors. We want to be a good neighbor to everyone out there. And just to let you know right now, in terms of, I've had the opportunity to watch the council in action now and how much you're growing your city and investing. And, we recognize that this project, there's actually a need. Right now, it's 100% leased. There are no units available. So we know there's a need, and this would be a chance to provide 72 more homes for 72 more people, families to have a place to live. So with that, if hopefully I've answered questions, but if something I've said may have piqued another question, I'll be happy to answer that.
Thank you, sir. You do have questions. Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to say, not too often, that's a piece of land out there that's in the flood zone, and not too often do we get somebody that has the ability and the resources to take a piece of property that's in a flood zone and do what they need to do to get it out of flood zone. And I know that because when there's a piece of property out there for sale and the first thing somebody says it's in a flood zone, pretty much stays that way forever, because the things that you need in order to get that right, the average person can't do that. So the way I look at that, it's complementing the area, because the people that live in there are going to get something that I think it's very good, very valuable. And, you had their big concern, it was the flood, and their big concern is the traffic. And both of those are going to be covered with the traffic analysis and the things that you're going to do to make sure that that piece of property is taken very well care of in doing what you need to do to get it out of that flood zone. So I commend you for that, for doing that, and I'm in favor of you guys getting that zoning.
Thank you.
Councilmember Adams.
Yeah, Councilmember Sagari addressed about the traffic and the flood. Those are the major concerns of some of the people that have called me. And so, would you, if this is approved and it's before permitting, I know with some of the other projects, the builders have met with the neighbors, that your future neighbors potentially, to alleviate fields. Would y'all be able to do that, or be willing to do that?
I believe we'd be able to do that. Now, I'm speaking, yes, there's the yes from the.
Because there are some older, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of elderly that live directly behind that, and they're extra concerned about their backyards turning into ponds.
May I?
Yes, sir. You can come up, sir.
So I would like to add, or just add one thing to that, and obviously Mr. Peak is saying that we'd be happy to meet with the neighbors. I think that's a good idea, to be able to hear concerns that they might have. But in terms of timing, permitting, and engineering, things like that, a traffic impact assessment, upon approval, if we were to receive approval this evening, we would be able to contract with our traffic engineers, start a traffic study sooner than later. And because that's while you go out in the field and you take traffic counts, then the rest of it's a desktop analysis where you study those patterns and you look at what the impact would be when you add these 72 additional units. So we would know very quickly what type of impact there would be and what would be required to mitigate that. So if we had that information in hand when we met with neighbors and staff, because I would think staff would want to be involved in that as well, it's a very useful tool to let us get to the next step.
I would just like to add one thing. My name's Robert Peak. I'm the principal owner of the project and glad to be in Killeen, glad to be a new part of the community. But we've developed projects in other cities, and we do not come here to build a project and sell it. If you look historically at the projects we've built, we've become a part of the community, and we have met with homeowners on several occasions on most of our projects. We want to be part of it. As far as traffic, when we did the first phase, y'all requested that we put in a turn lane. We did. So obviously, we want to be here for the long term and look forward to doing it. So whatever we can do to be a good citizen, we want to do. So.
Thank you for that. The city of Killeen is growing. And, I received the email I sent to Mr. Cagle today, and one of the concerns was, Rosewood, Stagecoach, just traffic everywhere. But our city is growing, and as people come here and hoping that we, the council, want to do bigger developments in the city of Killeen. So we will need space for people to live, because that is where we're going with our 2040 comprehensive plan, the growth of our city, and they need lodging. That's why we're working on Station 42, and it's open now. So it is a need, but what's most important to me is the residents that's already there, that they have invested in their community, their home. We're talking about 200,000 and higher homes over there, and it's a great property that you're on. So with Councilmember Adams' recommendation to go and meet with the residents and you agree to it, that shows me that you will be a great neighbor.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will now open up our public hearing. Melissa Brown. Good evening. You have 4 minutes.
This is my neighborhood. I do live over there. There's been more than just 3 voices of opposition to it. Not that it seems to matter. There were a lot of voices of opposition last week, and the council couldn't do the right thing by the citizens. So I don't have a whole lot of hope tonight, but I'm still going to try, because unlike last week, I only need 2 council members to look out for the best interest of the citizens today. Doesn't have to be 4 looking out for us. Only 2. So I'm glad that the mayor mentioned Station 42, because these apartments on Rosewood are in that same price range as Station 42. Station 42 is not filled yet. It is not even, from what I hear, 3/4 of the way full. So there are plenty of apartments available. There is more trash and more in the drainage and in the creek since these apartments started leasing and opening. The water that covers Rosewood Drive is already increased in depth and in swiftness. You don't ever get rid of a flood zone. You relocate it, because the water is still going to go where water wants to go. As people, we feel like we can control the elements, just like we feel we control other people. You can't do either. Since I've also heard some misinformation coming tonight, even from the mayor on other items, let me just go ahead and say the traffic impact analysis, anything that is needed to mitigate traffic, is not going to be paid 100% by the developer. It is a proportional share, and so the city of Killeen will still have a portion of the cost that we have to put into it. Most of the people sitting on the council right now were there when the TIA was passed and know that it is written as a proportional share. Planning and zoning only heard a recommendation for 4 buildings, not 3. And we have 24 units per building, so I don't care if it's 1 building, 2 buildings, 3 buildings, or 4. You're increasing the number of apartments by 24 for each building that you approve. We get 1 dog park that's already there, 1 playground that's already there. Those are both reserved for only the tenants of those apartments. And I wanted to come up and say so much more about this and how it's going to be detrimental to that neighborhood because of the traffic, because of the accidents that have already increased exponentially since it opened, and I don't have the data and the documents and the numbers for it because I didn't have time to get all of that because the city likes to withhold and withhold and withhold open information, so I didn't bother putting it in because I knew it was going to take me forever to get it, or they want to charge us a bunch of money. But anecdotally, as someone who has to drive down Rosewood 2 or 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a day, I can tell you that the number of accidents has increased there. I know that Councilman Solomon, Councilman Adams, both live down off of Rosewood. They can tell you that themselves. I know that Councilman Sagari used to live off of that direction. And I know that Councilwoman Cobb lives not too far away from there, and I'm sure uses Rosewood quite often. And what I'm asking tonight is for you to do what you failed to do week after week, is to listen to the citizens who have concerns and also do what's in the best interest of the citizens who live in that area. Thanks.
Hey, sir, if you want to speak, would you fill out a form? Because I have someone before you. You have to fill out a form for public hearing. Would you help him, Madam Secretary? Thank you, because this is his first time. Thank you so much. Mr. Price? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Basically on this expansion, or to increase the number of apartments off of Rosewood, I'm opposed to it. I actually think that we need to lower the speed limit on Rosewood to 30. It's dangerous. There's quite a few accidents at that intersection right there underneath the Rosewood and the expressway. Several of them have been severe, where it's caused disability to our residents. This traffic and adding more to it by 3 buildings, that's 3 times 24. That's a significant amount in the morning, rushing off to work. Soldiers going back and forth from PT and so forth. It creates a dangerous atmosphere for the exit of Rosewood as well, and the back and forth from lunch and so forth. So it's just a small zone, so if it's mitigated with larger or expansion of the roadway, I can understand maybe the added occupancy, if you will, right? Because that mitigates the congestion. But that would come at a significant cost with expanding the bridge and so forth and everything like this at the highway, at Interstate 14 there. But it's not just there, it's also the in and outs from everywhere else, because the traffic is so high, people have to jump out. And several people don't really care if you're coming down there at 45 miles an hour and you're doing a right turn, or a left turn coming towards downtown. A T-bone, it can kill you. As an EMT, I've seen it. You don't have to be doing that fast. 45 is dangerous. So I think other things that need to be looked at when we're talking about we're going to increase occupancy of a certain area due to the cars that would be going in and out, even with businesses and stuff like this. This is a very congested area. The light should be mitigated as well, because the timing is just, it's extra stupid there. That's the only way I can describe it. So I would implore you on reconsidering, right, this, unless if you can substantiate the expansion of the roadway, slow it down, and increase police presence there to make sure that you don't get the crackheads going up and down the road, passing on the left in the center lane at 75 miles an hour, because you're doing slower than what they're doing. Because they want to go and get up to Chaparral at 75 and get out past towards Stillhouse Lake. So there's a lot more going on in that. Yeah, that's what I'd say. So I'm opposed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. David? Good evening, sir. You have 3 minutes.
My name is David Opolewski, and I live at 4809 Acorn Creek Trail. And I like to disapprove of the apartment buildings that are planning to build because of the fact that ever since they put Rosewood Drive there, departments, the congestion on Acorn Creek Trail has tripled. Every time there is an accident on Rosewood Drive, there by the expressway, or anywhere on Rosewood, they use Acorn Creek Trail as a bypass. Now, there's no stop signs on Acorn Creek Trail, and they use that road as a drag racing road. Cars, motorcycles, speeding up and down that road like there's no care in the world. Now, trying to get onto Rosewood Drive, if you got to make a left turn going towards the expressway off of Glenwood Drive in the morning time, sometimes you wait 10 to 15 minutes because of the traffic. I mean, you increase the speed to 45 miles an hour and they go 50, 55, and it's accident really waiting to happen. Like the guy before me said, it's a T-bone waiting to happen. There's been people, ever since they built that apartment and built Rosewood Drive, there have been, I've lived there since 1992 and had my house built there. It used to be a quiet neighborhood. Now, I got people walking around a neighborhood that I don't even know. Like I said, I've been there over 20 years, and I know most of the neighbors around that area. It just, I'm worried about the congestion. I'm not too worried about the floodplain because they named Acorn Creek Trail appropriate. When it rains, it's a river. So, like I said, I disapprove because of the congestion. They either need to put a light there at Glenwood and Rosewood and put some speed bumps on Acorn Creek Trail. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public hearing is closed. Council, do you have any more discussion before I call for a motion? Councilmember Adams.
I had to. I want procedurally, we changed what P&Z first considered. This doesn't automatically go back to them prior to, it doesn't have to. Okay, and no, disregard my second question. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
My question is, with this area that they're speaking of, do you think we may need to do a traffic analysis? Is it too late for a traffic analysis?
That's what they were.
Okay, we have one?
Yeah.
And Mr. Zagers is here as well, but there will be a traffic impact analysis
That's
done. If you
what-
want more details about that, Mr. Zagers could provide.
Yes, I do, because I really want it to be safe. I want the apartments, I want folks safe, and you're going to give me the answer.
I am, yes, ma'am. Yes, Councilmember. So with the reopening of the PUD allows us to make sure that this meets our current requirements, which is a TIA. If the development as a whole generates the traffic, and with all the old buildings and even the 3 new ones, they do meet peak hour requirements, so they will have to do a traffic analysis for this whole development and see what their impacts are, especially on Rosewood.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I got to be honest, my concern is primarily this drainage. So I have a question in relation to that. The concrete ditch that runs parallel to Acorn Creek, should this get approved, would that likely be extended down as concrete, or will we leave it just raw land to continue pushing that drainage down? I guess it's the southeast.
Mr. Hamilton, you can come up too, sir.
Sorry, I don't mean to presume, so I appreciate you calling me up. In terms of drainage and in terms of the floodplain and how we would mitigate that, the easy answer is to say that we would extend a concrete drainage channel further. But that's not the immediate thing that we want to explore. We would like to keep it green, keep it grass line channel where we can. So that is the intent, is to keep it green, keep it green, keep it open. We are looking to reduce the width of the floodplain area. There is an existing 100-foot drainage easement out there now. We're exploring to neck the flood area down to that 100-foot drainage easement that is there. I would like to try to keep it with a grass line channel. That helps with velocities in the channel, keeps the water a little slower. when we get close to the southeast property line, we've left space in the layout to allow that drainage to expand and go back to the existing width that's out there right now, so that we can have a calming effect with the water and have it leave our property in a fashion that it's currently leaving, so that neighbors downstream of us don't feel an effect of what has happened on the site. All of that is tied to some pretty significant engineering calculations, hydraulic modeling that we have to go through. There are detailed studies, detailed reports that we put together. We submit that to the city. If we can pass muster with the city engineers, then we're allowed to then submit that to FEMA, and we go through the whole process again. It's actually even more rigorous with that to get their approval to allow us to change that floodplain. Still taking it back to, we're just asking for permission to even get to that stage. If we can't get permission to use the land with the site plan that we're requesting, then we can't even get to the permit phase of it. If we get to the permit phase of it and we can't prove flood has been mitigated, we can't prove that traffic has been mitigated, then the project doesn't happen because we can't get the permits that we need to move forward. So I don't want to make too light of it or simplify it too much. I'm looking at two separate things, and I know they're tied together. I don't mean to say they're not, but we have fail stops here in the terms of permitting and proving through all the analysis and the many people that we have in front of us to get those permits to keep us from being able to do anything that has a negative impact to the area.
I understand the need to continue to move forward with this vote. And I do understand the intent is to maintain a calming effect throughout that drainage area. So that's understood at this point. That's all I got. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think you just reiterated what I was going to say again, but, as you stated, you guys are at the point where you're asking for a land use green light to move forward with this. If y'all are unable to meet FEMA requirements and your drainage model doesn't pass muster with the city of Killeen city engineer, and whatever your TIA results are, if y'all don't comply with that, then the project, as you stated, doesn't move forward. I guess my one question would be for Mr. Zagers. Do you, in your professional opinion, have any concerns with this project moving forward, at least to the phase where they can do their engineering, do their modeling, and see what happens and go from there?
No, I don't have any issues with that, because that's why we're engineers, and we make sure that we make sure it all works and determine how to make it work.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Cigar.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick questions here too. They mentioned the approval of this part, and then the permitting. But from this part, the permitting is just staff, right? It's never going to come back to council again, right? So we just got to make sure that staff is, and I'm not saying we, you guys just need to make sure that everything is done in accordance. And then the other thing is, and I kind of agree with some of the people that I'm in favor of this project, but I think that a lot of the people's concern is that traffic on Rosewood, and that's a discussion we've had in the past. I think it's a separate issue, because I think that there is issues that we need to resolve on Rosewood, and maybe with the traffic analysis and all that, we can get something done. But I think growth is going to happen. It's going to continue down that road. It's not just up here. It's going to go to the back where people come up through Rosewood to hit I-14. So I think that's a separate issue that a council, hopefully near future, is going to have to figure out a way to resolve, because I go down Rosewood just about every day to go to my house to make that turnoff, and as people said, there's always accidents there, and that's the corner that we really need to take care of and make sure that, safety is always a big issue there. Thank you.
Councilmember Solomon, it's in your district, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know, and Ms. Ravel, you can answer this question for me. In reference to the traffic analysis, remember years ago that with the other subdivision across the street, there was supposed to be a study for putting a red light there, I think, at Glenwood, is it Glen? Have we ever looked at putting a traffic light in that area? Was that supposed to be part of that? Whether it was the Hudson, whether the development that we have now and the one across the street?
It would be better for Mr. Zegers to answer that question.
So I don't have any record that there ever was a traffic impact analysis done with those developments for triggering a signal. There were turn lanes, center turn lanes that were added. I think it was part of this development or combination of both. We, like I say, don't have any, current requirements. Now, since then, we did change our code to require the traffic impact analysis. The study for this one will give us an analysis whether we need to have a signal there or not coming out of the apartments. That will be something that will be a result of this TIA for what we're requesting for this project. And then from there, we can then determine if there's proportionate shares, when a signal would be needed, if it is now. But then that also gives us some planning to whether we make it a capital project if we don't have the funds now, or we could also pursue grants and safety dollars, because TIA is one of those requirements for applying for those grants.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a need for a light there eventually, because just like Councilman Segarra, I use that road every day, and it's a lot of traffic. But I want to say that the traffic is, when we're talking about accidents, you see a lot of accidents right there at that intersection of Rosewood and Central Texas Expressway.
Right.
There's more there. Not so much, there are some accidents on Rosewood, but I've seen more at the intersection.
Correct.
So-
That's correct. We see the accidents high at the intersection of CTE and Rosewood, and then a little bit farther down, more at Aspen and Fawn, which we've already done traffic impact analysis is down there, and we're pursuing mitigations for those.
Right, because you're talking to traffic, it's just not only coming out of the development that we're talking about now, but we've got traffic coming from South Rosewood. That's a whole new development there, so we're not just talking that's traffic that's out of those apartments. We've got thousands of cars coming from the south of Rosewood. And, because there's more development down that, Heritage Trail. So I was just concerned about that, because I do remember when we were talking about the development across the street from the Hudson years ago, that they was going to put a light there when with that development, where they put in a Dollar General store. Suppose it was talk of a light. I remember back in 2017, they had a community meeting.
So I will look through those old records for those developments to see what was discussed and then what the results were. Obviously, that was before my time, and so I'll have to do some research on that.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you,
Council, you're welcome, Councilman Solomon. Council, just a reminder, this is a zoning item, to change the zoning. Councilmember Segarra?
Yes, Mayor, I just forgot in the conclusion of my last comments to make a motion, so I move to approve this item. I forgot the number, so move to approve.
PH-24-001. Mayor Pro Tem.
I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, yes. All opposed? Any more discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. I understand that this is, for the exploratory phase of this, we have to do the approval, but because of the nature of the constituents' concern and some of our concerns regarding traffic and flood mitigation, would it be an unreasonable ask that we at least get an update on the status as part of our motion? Would that be an unreasonable? I know we can't do anything about it, but just to get an update on where they are, do they meet the TIA or the FEMA regulations? Would that be an unreasonable ask?
No, ma'am, I think what we can do is, if this is approved tonight, and when the TIA is done, when the Clomer is done, if it's approved, we can bring those results back
So
to
that we
you.
can inform our citizens, because again, his question was traffic and understanding that if there is a breakthrough, that we should be able to notify the public of that. So thank you. I would like to amend the motion to include an update from the city staff regarding the TIA and FEMA regulation updates. If possible.
City attorney,
I can just add that, so you
you
don't
can
have,
just,
Sorry. I would recommend that not be attached to the same motion in approving the item or not. I mean, it could be a separate motion to bring back an update if you want that formally on the record, but I wouldn't tie it directly to the motion, make it reflective of the action itself. Thank you.
all in favor of approving PH-24-001? Yes, all opposed? No. Councilmember Boyd?
Approve.
Motion carries 6, not yet. Is that yes or no? Motion carries 6-1 with, I don't know who was in opposition.
Riacos.
It was Councilmember Adams.
Now, Councilwoman Gonzalez, would you like to make your motion, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion.
Motion of direction?
A motion of direction, yes, ma'am. Please to have city staff bring back an update upon completion of the TIA and the FEMA flood mitigation results for this particular PUD.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Motion to.
It's a motion of direction. Council, all in favor of the
I wanna
motion of
amend
direction?
that. I still want to amend that direction. To add this, we conduct the town hall with the residents.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to the motion? Motion failed. All right, going back to the original motion. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Councilmember Boyd?
Approve.
Motion carries 6-1. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
The motion to adjourn was by Councilmember Sagara, and the second one was by, second is by Councilmember Solemn. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Please be safe.